Okay, now we're on to 18th century style and characteristics, and we're going to start with the Rococo style. And the Rococo style has its roots in with the death of Louis XIV in 1715. It brings a lot of changes to French high society, and the elite are quickly going to abandon the Versailles Palace and move back to Paris. And that's largely due to the regent of Louis XV, because he was a boy at the time of his father's death. So one of the things that the French citizens are going to still owe is allegiance to the monarch, but we do see a resurgence in the aristocratic social, political, and economic power that I mentioned. But members of the nobility not only exercised traditional privileges, but also sought to expand their power in the cultural realm. And so we see them reestablish their predominance as art patrons. And so Paris becomes the center of a new, softer style called Rococo. So kind of away from the opulence, a reaction to the Baroque of the Palace of Versailles. And we're definitely going to see them trying to create art and architecture that was supposed to be a perfect expression of light-hearted elegance that the wealthy tried to cultivate in their opulent homes. And we really see the driving force behind this are women, and they call themselves femmes savantes. And so, you know, the Rococo style it does have a feminine look to it, and it's based on like the taste and style and social initiative of women that dominated the cultural sphere of the Rococo age. And these women in the 18th century include Madame Pompadour, and also who was the mistress of Louis XV, and then also other queens and leaders from other countries as well. But Paris becomes the social capital of Europe, and the Rococo Salon was the center of Parisian society. And it's really where wealthy and ambitious and clever society hostesses compete to attract the most famous and accomplished people to come to their salons. And that not only included the writers and thinkers of the time, but it also included artists. So, and really what they're trying to do is trying to attract people that are you know, they're really just trying to show off how many people they know. It's really like kind of artificial, and they took pride in that. So so these femmes savantes were the ones that are going to kind of drive this move into the Rococo style. We do see Rococo in architecture, and it's a very refined and pretty style. It's definitely elegant. You want to think of like what you would see in very rich homes in Europe. It's fanciful with the architecture. There's a lot of undulating lines, some silver and gold accents, beautiful chandeliers, and you know, use of color with and again, a lot of the color is going to be like blues or turquoises or like yellows, and it's just, for me, the idea of it being very, very pretty. So but with the painting, we're going to see different types of themes in the painting, and the first one will be courtly life. So it would be like having a party, or about meeting at the salon. I mean, it was just like, what do you do for parties? Also very frivolous, a lot of playfulness. It does show love and sensuality, but a hallmark of a Rococo painting are the pastel colors, and you'll see that with your first piece that you do, which is the swing, where pink and peach and like a light white will mix in with like light blues and mint greens and other colors to just make it look really pretty. Figures are generally small, and delicate. It's not lifelike at all, delicate brush strokes. And this isn't just happening in Paris, though. It is happening that spreads across Europe. And it's supposed to create this atmosphere that is supposed to be taken from classical love stories with playful elements added in. Oops, wrong button. Okay. Now we have the Enlightenment and natural style characteristics. And again, what we see with a lot of these movements is that it's a reaction or the opposite. And so Enlightenment style is the opposite of the Rococo. And it's supposed to be very rational. It's supposed to be morality scenes. They're showing the wonders of science, because science certainly, we have the scientific revolution that predates this, but the new inventions don't stop, and so they're depicting all these new wonders that they're seeing, and they're really trying to show substance rather than the frivolousness of the Rococo. They try to show naturalistic scenes, but it's definitely like the philosopher at his orrery is a really good example, but it's really just trying to show science in the best light possible. Okay, that brings us to the neoclassical, and part of the reason, neoclassical is a really important style for us to know, and it happens due to the discovery, and if you were to see me right now, I would be putting that in quotation, because really, Herculaneum and Pompeii does disappear for a really long time, and people did find it here and there. There were grave robbers, and people were looking for it, but it wasn't until the discovery in 1738 of Herculaneum and 1748 of Pompeii where they really go into detail excavations of the cities that were covered by the volcanic eruption in the first century, that we see this influence of the Greco-Roman times. And then we talked about that grand tour in the last screencast, and Italy is going to be the main focus for the grand tour. So it's essentially a requirement of education for not just artists, but any wealthy gentleman in Europe and in America, that they need to go to this area and to visit it in order to have any type of, in order to be considered like educated. So Greece and Rome, the reason why they chose those two ancient civilizations were thought to be cultures that give us the new political systems that are democracy and republicanism, as opposed to the monarchies that they hated so much. And they increasingly criticized those monarchies as corrupt and arbitrary into the mid-late 18th century. And this is pre-revolution, so neoclassicalism will continue on for quite a long time. But the connection to the classical tradition is it signifies moderation, rational thinking, and it's definitely in a politically charged time because of the Enlightenment that is rebelling against the monarchies that are overbearing. So the ancient world was considered the model for European democracy. We see that in the Netherlands when they broke away from Spain. We see the rise of secular government, and it's thought to be more civilized. You're supposed to use thought and action. So then the art was thus viewed as this embodiment of civic and moral lessons. So the virtues portrayed in neoclassical style is going to be morality, idealism, patriotism, and civic virtue. And then neoclassical sculptures were often painted for and displayed in public spaces in order to encourage that patriotism and nationalism. It was especially popular in Britain and America and France because it is this visual expression of the state and political stability, and it's the alternative Rococo that you kind of get sick of after a while. And then it is the first start for the development of Romanticism. It's definitely well suited to the changing times of the 18th century. What you think of when you think of this time frame is that we've got no emotions, very rational and sober. You're not getting any reaction out of it. And that's something that's really clear. So the major inspiration is from the different artists. Clear lines and forms and shading, sober colors, not the pretty pastels that we saw before, a shallow space, strong horizontal and vertical lines, and they definitely use classical subject matter or make contemporary subject matter classicized. Yes. So they're going to basically put what was happening then and put it in like a classical context. So and the architecture will emulate this classical ideal, especially the Renaissance classicism. So we'll see that when we talk about Monticello and so on. And then sculptures will emulate like the models above. So that's it for the context. And I want you guys to please take notes on the swing from not just from the book or from the study book, but I also want you to take it from Khan Academy because they did a pretty good video on it. So please go on to Khan Academy and take notes on the swing for that, especially for period 4 because we don't have a presentation for the swing. So thanks for listening, guys, and stay tuned for more.